Welcome in challenge ratings of all levels to another episode of the Cloaks and Capes podcast. I'm your host, Robbie Landis, CR10DM. Along with me is our drama queen, CR18 Kali Scales, and our guests today, the lovely and talented creators behind Catchy Cantrips, Ash and David. Welcome in, both of you.
Hello.
Hello. I like the CR
Now, I know that,
thing. That's
Yeah,
cute.
I like that. That was good.
I appreciate you calling me CR18, but I believe we established last episode that I couldn't beat a CR0 in a fight.
But hold on, because what I realized going through some of the things is that a frog doesn't actually have any attacks. It has 1 HP, no attacks.
Okay.
So eventually, even with how poorly you roll, you're going to be able to defeat a frog.
All right. Or the frog might run away.
Oh, yeah, because it could try to flee, you know.
Because I am not confident in my ability to catch a frog.
That's a
true. You know what?
victory.
That's true, because it tried to,
That is-
leave.
The frog being too depressed and just leaving does technically count as me winning.
That's right. Ash and David, do you have any? So this question came about. What is the of the monsters you know of from D&D or just fantasy in general? What do you think is like the strongest thing you, as yourself in real life, could defeat with like no weapons or anything? Just like running into it on the streets.
Oh, yeah, I was about to ask, do I get, even a sword or something? But if it's just, me, okay, think of...
Because we got people saying that they could take a bear. And I'm telling you, no, you couldn't.
Bears are pretty big.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
What?
Because I think of myself I couldn't take a cat. If I had to actually fight a cat, I think the cat would win.
They got those claws.
So what is the technicality for beat?
Do we have to kill it?
Yeah,
or...
does this mean I'm killing the thing? Because I feel like maybe some of the sentient things that are stronger, maybe I could convince them not to kill me because they feel bad. Because I'm like, look at how weak I am. I'm so sad.
Okay.
I'm not
So
worth
You would
it.
do well in the Feywild.
Hold on. So now this whole thing comes full circle because where this idea came from is there are some people who think they could beat gorillas by saying they could emote to them and get them to basically be emotional and let them live. So there, we've hit all of the different aspects of the real world versus D&D fantasy version of this. But Ash and Dave, the reason that we brought you guys on today is we recently came across you. We've actually heard of you before from a few different creators, I think. But just recently, a while ago, we had finally rated you on Twitch and got to hang out in your stream for a while. And you do a lot of the same stuff that we do. It's a lot of homebrewing, a lot of art-related stuff as well. And so we thought this is perfect. We can bring you on to talk about just creating within D&D or within tabletop RPGs and just the plethora of wonder that comes from that. And I'd like to know what got you two started specifically with creating homebrew stuff and getting your chat and your Twitch stream involved in that sort of collaborative manner.
Ooh. Okay, so all of the things. Also, I realized we totally should have gotten you your little square.
No, but I have the other end of this microphone
Oh, good,
to play
good.
with. Got it.
So, to completely derail on your pretty much second
Great question.
Perfect intro.
Yes.
By all means, go ahead.
Immediately I hope you have seen enough of our stuff to know that we have the attention span of a fish. And so
I empathize.
Not even one of the smart fish either.
Oh, no. So your question is basically how did we get into all of the shenanigans that we're doing currently? I would say completely accidentally, but also somewhat intentionally. We started streaming just because we wanted to build up a community that we could create things with and run a game. And it was kind of more casual, fun ideas at first. And it was just
we're way more strict now.
Yeah, we're very
Right?
Very structured,
yeah,
right?
very structured
A set list you have, timelines and everything.
Yes, now that's definitely
timelines we ignore all the time.
Just don't ask our community, but that's for sure.
But yeah, we went into it. We just wanted to have a little community that we could create things with, that we could have fun with, because we had an amazing had sounds so terrible. friend group in person that we played games with all the time, and having that magical experience of being able to create things with your friend group and having them always there and being able to set up game nights and stuff. We wanted to build that, but at a slightly bigger scale, to have a bunch of people all across the world and do things with them in that same way. But honestly, it started out way more simple than what it became, because when we first started out, we were like, how do we do anything? And so we went into it completely blind, not knowing what we were doing, and we just had an actual play with our friends that we had, the friend group. Everything was a wreck, and it broke every single time. Tech goblins.
Yeah,
yeah, great. Yeah,
but
we love it.
figured it out, and we slowly built up to what we have now. I mean, every part of it was something that somebody might have just come in and been like, hey, do you guys do this? Or do you think you'd ever do this? And we went, that's a good idea. We could do that. And we just kind of have been having fun with it, I'd say.
Yeah. I feel like, and even in the very beginning, like both of us as like artists and stuff, we really like creature creation was like a huge starting point in world building. Because I remember we even just by ourselves had a fun time coming up with like monsters and how other ones would interact with them and just go on these tangents. And then so we were like, we should like do this with other people. Like, essentially.
Oh my gosh. Our very first creature that we ever made was this like horrific thing. I don't think we even have it on our website. We really should, because it was our first creation.
The plummet?
Oh wait, we do have it on the website.
Yeah, it's on the website.
Good.
Yeah.
Was the plummet, and it's basically like this koala thing that hangs out in trees and then will just like fall on people, paralyze them, and then drink their blood.
Yes.
Which is like where were our minds at? But our very first creation, and we're like, this is so romantic. What if it also drained the blood out of its victims? And it's like, oh,
we were just discussing this
We should
walking
do
around
things
a
together.
national park. Like going on hiking there, and it's like, yeah, and then it jumps out, and there's also this worm thing that like digs holes for the victims to go into, and it's like the symbiotic relationship with them and stuff.
Can you imagine somebody overhearing our conversation in this beautiful natural environment? Like we're walking through a beautiful park, and they're sitting there looking at the wonderful like waterfalls, and then we're like, yeah, and then it just drinks its victim's blood. Yeah. Oh, and then the worms really get in there and decompose, and they're just like, oh,
how romantic indeed.
Yes.
There's so many moments like that, though, where you just think, like, in any other context, what I'm writing right now would sound like the ravings of a lunatic.
But when you're doing it together, too, it's like, it's different.
Well, yeah. Yes, because no couple have ever been lunatics
Exactly.
together.
Can't even name any.
And look, what better place to find more lunatics than on a Twitch stream? When I first, I mean, obviously, I've been homebrewing for as long as I've been playing D&D. I think I only recently, and maybe 2 or 3 years ago, tried to do my first like proper like module. I still know nothing about like Faerun or any canon sort of history or pantheon. Like whatever I remember from Baldur's Gate 3, that's it. If I was on like a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire D&D show, I'd lose so fast. But when it comes to like doing actual, making magic items, making monsters, stuff like that, when I started doing my magic item a day, I quickly like realized, obviously there's some days you have tons of ideas and like energy, and other days you don't. And so I just started asking, my Discord, like, hey, what are some ideas that you have? And then when I started doing them on stream, people coming in, we all have ideas for tabletop related stuff. And I think the thing that's been my driving motto, I guess, is I don't know if I've talked about this on the show just yet or not, but I know that I mentioned it a million times on stream. But there was a quote from either, I forget which way this went. I think it was Ben Affleck said this to Matt Damon when they were getting ready to write Good Will Hunting. And he basically said, please don't judge me for my worst ideas, judge me for my best ideas. And, what I took from that is that whenever anyone has any kind of idea, like, I think we fear a lot what people will think of our ideas when we share them, that people will shoot them down being like, oh, that's dumb. Or, maybe we don't fully have it formed and, we lose it or nothing ever comes of it. But inspiration can strike from anywhere. And so whatever tiny piece of a puzzle or big piece of a puzzle that you have, if you throw it out there, even if it is a bad idea, it could inspire somebody else to take it And that might be the piece that they're missing from somewhere. And so anytime anybody says something on stream for Magic Item, we turn it into one, which is how we ended up with the Infinity Banana or a magic waifu pillow.
We also have the potato that you love.
The potato is fine. The illustration that our friend Buttered Apple did is cursed, though. It's so
now
it's
I want to
so
see.
Yeah, I want to see what the
I want to see the
like
cursed
the
potato.
I will definitely send it to you,
good.
and I'm sure that Lloyd will put it up here on the VOD, and for anybody listening to the audio, you'll have to go to the Discord and ask to see it. But it's bad. You know how potatoes grow, like the I think they call them eyes, but like the little roots just start to grow out of them.
Yeah.
She turned those into like the limbs of it. It's not great. It's like it's good, but in that nightmare kind of way that we were talking about earlier. Like when you see it, you're just like, oh no.
We were at the Renaissance Fair when she came up with that idea. By the way, we were sitting there watching a guy like juggling axes or something at the Renaissance Fair, and she goes, "What if that's what the potato was like, but I made like the roots hold a bunch of different weapons and stuff?" And I said, and I quote, "Robbie will love that. You should do it."
Nope.
Again,
Robbie did not love that.
Another conversation that if other people were to hear, they'd be like, what? Because it's just like, what if the potato did that? And then people are like, what?
Also, that's so fair.
I feel like it's a gamer thing in general, because I remember having a similar conversation to this when Animal Crossing first came out, and like you'd see people online talking about how I got to go to the stock market later to see how much the onions are, and if they're high enough that I can sell all of my bells to go pay the loan off at the Raccoon to get the next like level of my house. And any normal person hearing that type of stuff would be like, what kind of drugs are you taking? Stop it.
Yeah, this is another random question. Again, I said I would have a bazillion random questions for you. But you mentioned not knowing a lot of the canon lore and stuff, and we ourselves a lot of the time don't. We've had people come into our stream and they're like, how does this thing do, and what do to this module something or another? And we're like, you were in the wrong place.
But we have people in our stream who know.
Yeah.
We have people in the chat.
But I wanted to ask you, because I saw this in your stream, but how often do you have one of those little questionnaire question things that you did? I don't know what you call them, but you had like a little thing
the D&D
for the
trivia.
How often do you not know the answer to the question that you're asking? Because I know it tells you.
Often. Now, if it's rules related, like a spell or something like that, chances are that I probably know that. But if it's like something about like, an adventure or the cosmology, some of the questions get really, really hard. Like we've seen
Who was the original editor on the I-9-1982 release?
Who cares? Like what? But yeah, it's fun. They're basically all they're from D&D. What's that trivia game? Trivial Pursuit. It's a Dungeons and Dragons like officially licensed Trivial Pursuit. So some of the questions are easier. Like there's one that's what class is powered by like their oath or whatever. Bards, paladins, those of you at home. Their oath to the thirst. Ooh, that's a subclass. The oath of thirst.
Oath of thirst, paladin.
Yeah, or put
that down.
Yeah, let me write that down. Oath of thirst, paladin.
Yeah, so sometimes they're easy, and then other times they're really, really hard. But I had bought that for some reason when I was in a Barnes and Noble, and then was like, I could just use this on stream and get use out of it. And it's been going pretty well so far. You guys had mentioned that you like to make monsters specifically, and I know that Ash, you're the artist of the two, right?
We actually are both artists. David's just a lot more shy about his artwork, so he does it mostly just in the Discord instead of on the live stream. Because I've been doing artwork longer, so I'm more confident in doing it live as opposed to like just doing it. But
and I know that like if it's something that I put my mind to and like practice, I could be good at it too. But I would rather have the basketball from Space Jam and go around stealing people's talent. If I could do that, like if there was one crime that I actually would do, that's That's it.
I like
you
that
can
this
judge me
feels
if you
like
want,
this has
but-
been a thing for a while.
Yeah, like,
I
that
love
was
that. Yes. There you
It
go.
has
No,
been.
They've had this conversation before.
This
for sure.
conversation has been had before. Absolutely.
Many
You
times.
see, but I also
Yeah.
I can feel it a little bit because when I heard of Taskmaster from Marvel, I would love that power. I just have to look at someone do something and I can just do it. After
Now I
that.
can do it. It's
Like
great.
nice. I
No,
can do so much
the,
other
the
things.
journey to getting the skill is part of what makes the skill so nice.
No, I would for sure cheat if I could. And that way, if I could just instantly be like super good at anything by looking at a master, I would do it. Because then I could do other things that I want to do. But I can also be like, these are the 12 things I've mastered. Just off the bat this week.
Oh, yeah, that would make like we can all agree there's not enough time in the day for anything
Yeah,
at this
yeah.
point. And part of my problem with that is that I run 6 D&D games a week. I understand that this is somewhat self-inflicted.
That's how many she runs. How many do you play in?
3, I want to say.
9 D&D games.
So
a
that's
week.
multiple.
Every week?
That means multiple games
Yeah.
in certain days. Like, multiple.
We
Yeah.
should have had her committed by now. If I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's a lot.
How are you even here right now? Are you also playing D&D on like another
We
monitor?
see like rolling dice.
No,
That's why
my-
their dice
my-
was near them when they
my,
rolled.
my game. Yeah, no, my game's not until 8:30 tonight. So
You still have a game though.
Yeah,
I do have a game later
Tonight.
tonight. Yeah, absolutely, I do.
No, it's not till 8:30. Oh, what was that? Oh, okay, yeah. Continue.
In fairness, it is my full-time job, so like it is what I
yeah,
do for a
fair.
living. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, back to the question that I was asking about like monsters and
distracted.
stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I know earlier you had mentioned like originally you had got into it, just kind of imagining what these monsters would be, how they would interact with each other, lore and stuff like that. So what sort of things do you make specifically then? Like I've came in and seen you doing like the art and stuff like that. Do you actually like stat these things out for use in campaigns, or is it more like system agnostic sort of stuff? Like people can take the ideas and then kind of make them to fit their own campaigns.
Kind of both. So
Yeah.
when we are making them on stream, we stay away from stats altogether. So it's no stats. We're not covering like the odds and ends.
It's just
of
lore.
what it does
kinda
or
thing.
why it does it like that. But yeah, as David said, it's just the lore and the visuals. So we get really into the nitty gritty of why some of the creatures exist there, how they interact with other creatures, and that kind of thing. Because we're really focused on building out the world itself and the
Right,
different
gotcha.
environments as
Mhm.
Yeah.
opposed to just the stat side of the game. That's why I immediately wanted to throw in the warning of like, we do not know a lot about, we're just having fun, we're all over the place, we're crazy, but we do
look, we recognize, like Robbie and I spent almost 3 hours yesterday debating the math behind some wizard spells that we
Oh.
wanted to make, and
And
there was a
also,
moment
by
at the
the
end
way-
of those 3 hours where I'm like,
we're very bad at math. I am not good
Math's
at math,
hard.
which is why we argued for so long, I think.
yeah, but
Yeah.
like at the end of 3 hours, I was like, maybe we should make more system agnostic stuff where we don't have to worry about this because Jesus.
Yeah, we've actually been talking about it. So we do stat blocks because we use them in our live campaign, the creatures, because everything is in the same world. We use 0 creatures that exist in D&D and stuff that's already been built. So every single creature, every single animal, all of that is ours that we've made with our community. So we currently put them up on Patreon and we have
Yeah.
stat blocks for them there. However, we are so loosey-goosey with so many things, and we're also so aware that we don't know a ton about all of the nuanced things, and we're not actively playtesting all this stuff. We were talking about trying to figure out ways to open it up for people to also help on the building the stat block more.
Who know better?
Um,
Than us, like, essentially.
basically,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, like, we're not here to present ourselves as some kind of professional where we know what we're doing better than everybody else. We're so good at this stuff. It's more like we just want to have a nice community and just create a fun experience for people. And that's kind of just what we're doing.
I just want to throw in there that as someone who has been through multiple industries, gaming, esports, journalism, radio, I'm pretty sure that the majority of people don't while they may think of themselves as professional, I don't think they're any more professional than anybody who doesn't think of themselves as professional. But what I'm hearing, because we're good at like stat side of things ish, mostly. We do good there.
Like the
We
face
do
from
good
Kali.
stats. We do good stats. We do good stats. But it sounds like you have a whole bunch of monsters. Maybe not as many. I don't know. Maybe there's a partnership or like a crossover somewhere in the future. Maybe there's a potential there. I don't want to get anybody hopes up. I just want to throw that out there as like a little, like your boat's passing our boat, and we're just like throwing a line, like, hey, anyway, we'll talk later.
Ships in the night.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
I gotta
quite
ask. Yeah, I was gonna say, I gotta ask to that end. What is your favorite monster that you've homebrewed? Because we all have the one that is special to our heart, like Robbie and his potato.
No, that's
No.
not. That's apples.
That's true.
That's apples. Hold on, I'll go pick up one of my favorites.
The little mushroom dude she made is definitely apples.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll go pick up my favorite while you're talking about their favorite.
So
right.
ours we already have right here.
Is that the Tato
Yes,
Fae?
the Tatoes.
It also
That makes
is
me think of-
broken.
Yes.
So it's just held together with some like
we
random
need
putty.
to print another one, but for now it's just got the little broken part.
I sat on him.
Yes.
Oh no! Well, he stabbed you for it. I see.
No, this is just
That's
an
put on
addition
later.
because it was cute.
He
Oh,
needed
this is-
defense.
okay.
Yeah.
Obviously.
He should have tried to stab you.
Yes.
So he's got his defense for next time.
That actually is why I stuck the little sword on there. I was like, that way I'm not like.
Next time, I will pay the price
it
for
won't
this.
just be you.
But yeah, our Tato's 100% because it was so funny. We made these before Catchy even existed. I had made them as like a little creature that I threw in for a game that I was running for David and some friends before Catchy was even a thing. And then as Catchy was starting, I threw them in that game as well. And we like threw them in there and we were doing things. And it was during the time we were trying to figure out how everything worked. And we actually, funny enough, murdered a ton of them. Like they died horribly in a
Yes.
fire. We
Oh,
even said
no.
dramatically, like one of the tops of their leaves was like flowing in the
And then like
breeze.
turned to ash, like crisp in front of
Just like disintegrated. And then it was funny because as more people came in and wanted to get involved in things, and we were so excited and we were so okay with like anything, like we just wanted people
suggestions
to
and stuff. Yeah.
get involved with it because that's what we wanted from the beginning, but we didn't know how to
Mhm.
do it. People were like, "Can I be one of those little things? They're so cute." And we went, "Yeah, that's fine." And more people kept being like, "I want to be one of those."
And they were saying they would like do things as them. We were like, yeah.
yeah.
Can
Yeah.
be one of those.
This
Like,
sounds like a new playable species
Oh.
to me.
Exactly. So then it's funny because now they are such a huge part of our community. Our entire community, everybody are these little guys. They are our Tato Tot Fae. So they are not
Aw.
potatoes, but they very much resemble kind of the round shape of potatoes and stuff like that. But they're actually more like coconuts in texture. And they're just these like little wooden guys.
Mhm.
And yeah, our whole community are those little guys, and they can play in our interactive actual play. And we have an RP channel in our Discord where they play as them, and it's just like
Yeah.
everything's is now revolved around them. They're like our Pikachu.
yeah, I mean,
guess
as you can
for
see, they're on our
they're
shirt
mascot
too.
Yeah, they're the mascot.
Yeah.
Look, when you stumble across something like that people are able to latch onto so strongly and so passionately, you hold on to that for as long and as tight as you
Yes.
possibly can.
I will say I love the Tato so much, but also the helium fish is
You
another
do
one
love the
that I
helium
love so
fish.
much. It's this giant puffer fish, like flying fish thing, and it's got these big bulbous eyes and like little tiny
Oh.
wings, and I've loved it ever since the first time Ash drew it because it
I-
it looks super stupid.
I
Like
have
it looks
to-
like there's
Yeah.
nothing behind the eyes, and it just gives me so much joy. Because
Okay.
No,
I
it's
sent
he's
it to
so
your
dumb.
Discord chat thing just so you can experience the look of how dumb that thing's face looks.
Oh, he's so dumb. I love
people-
him.
It
People
also,
use them
I
as
feel like
blimps.
that's a legendary Pokemon for some reason.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I get that vibe
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. No, when you get the ones that like just kind of hit and you see the artwork of them, you fall in love with them immediately. Like how many people, Robbie? Like we've got the Goodberry Born. which is that's one
all of our
plushies
plushies of power. Yep, people love the plushies of power.
This is our Lich plushie of power.
Oh,
Aww.
that's cute.
Look how cute he is. He's my favorite.
I love that.
Yeah, so for anyone listening who's like, are y'all going to teach me how to homebrew yet?
We're
I hope
working
the
on
lesson
it.
you've taken so far
Class.
is that homebrewing
Class.
literally can be anything that you want it to be, right? It could be coming up with specific stats and like moves in the math of it, or spells. It can be just coming up with worlds in the lore of it and such like that. Okay, so we asked you what some of your favorite
some of the
creatures
stickers.
were that you've made.
I know,
We
now I
haven't
want
made.
stickers.
Right?
We'll see. We'll see what we can work
That's
out.
good marketing right there.
Yeah. Showing them off.
But the majority of what I've made has mostly been taking pre-established stuff and making in like I don't know. I don't want to say fixing them because that something about that feels mean.
Improving them.
But yeah, maybe. Like for
Updating
example,
them.
did you know that there are like 6 or 8 different owl bears in official like D&D monster manual creature thing, and they're basically all exactly the same.
No, I
Even
didn't
the
know that.
snowy owl bear isn't like resistant to cold damage or anything.
Oh,
So it's just
It's
completely
just the
reskinned,
name.
like essentially,
much.
and nothing else.
Pretty much.
Oh.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's dumb. That's super dumb. My favorite thing that I've done is, and this is sort of in preparation for what I'd like to do eventually, is I want to create like a little dungeon crawl called The House That Weeps or The House That Laughs. I haven't figured it out yet, but basically the whole house is a giant mimic with a bunch of other mimics inside of it. And so your party like wakes up in the basement, then you have to find your way through this house to like the brain in the attic to like kill it. And then every time that you play, you can make different items a different mimic. And so I've made a bunch of them, and the mimics have abilities based on what they are. So like a mimic that would be a stove is going to act differently and have different abilities than a mimic that looks like a broom, or a drawer full of silverware mimics, for example. So we've made like a bunch of mimics with different abilities like that I can't wait to
That
one
sounds
day
like a
make Kelly
horrifying
run through.
house.
Oh, 100%.
Like, what are you
yeah.
gonna pick
Yeah.
up? Like, can I use that to
Nothing.
fight? Like, I imagine getting attacked by a stove mimic, and I reach for like a knife on the table, and it starts attacking me. I'm like, like, why is everything
hold
in
on.
here?
Where is the here we go. So the tableware mimics, they have a perk called Overwhelm. And they're a tiny creature. When tiny mimics swarm a creature, they gain a +1 bonus to their attack roll for every other tiny mimic attacking the same target. So like if you tip over a box and 10 tiny mimics fall out, they all get to make an attack with like +12 against you. Those are all hitting. Now they only deal like 2 damage each.
Yeah, but that's
That
like
adds
that's
up.
escalating. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, you're being mauled by tiny mimics.
Yeah.
Well, and
I hate
remember,
that.
because they have adhesive in grappler, once they hit you, like they're not coming off.
that's spicy.
Yeah.
And that
Don't like
it's
it.
funny that you're doing mimic things.
You're also
have
thinking
you,
of
Red Cap.
Yeah.
Have you seen DM Red Cap on Twitch yet? He's like he's another artist.
I think so.
DM Redcap is actually currently working on a mimic deck. So it's a deck of cards that's a deck of different mimics. And
Ooh.
he is doing mimics that you just don't want to exist. So
Yeah.
he's trying to find every mimic that is ruining things that should be sacred. So he's like, pillows and blankets, cozy
yeah.
things. He
Yep,
even
we have
did
bedroom
underwear.
linens.
Yeah, I'm not excited. Like, I had a DM one time that gave me a helmet that was a mimic, and
Oh.
I'm like, that's not fair.
Yep, he did some masks.
I
and
think like a
things.
hat, a glove, or something like that. Like lots
But
of...
his artwork is crazy. It's super
Oh,
awesome.
I'm seeing some of it. All right, followed.
Yeah.
Yes, followed as well. That's what I went and
Yeah.
did. That's great. So, since you do a lot of like your own homebrewing, it's like it's world building in art stuff. Has there ever been any kind of like resources for either inspiration or like tools that you've came across that you think have like helped you a lot, that you think other homebrewers might also be able to get something out of?
Ooh.
Ooh, I would say this is a resource that's not the one that you would be expecting. So instead of shouting out a specific app or anything like that, I
Mhm.
would say the best resource that we have come across is community.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, cute. But yes, I definitely 100% community. I think it is. I mean, so many people talk about community, but honestly, like finding all of the different niches, all of the little like pockets of communities that are in the TTRPG space is so crazy because each one is going to be a little bit different and you're going to find different people, but then there's going to be some crossover. But talking to everybody else and gaining ideas and learning different things from everybody else is just such an experience. I can't recommend enough. So even though it's probably not the answer that is normally given for this kind of thing, because you could just Google apps and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I actually think that's a great answer because, even though we label ourselves as a D&D podcast, something like homebrewing, homebrewing is just game design when it comes down to it, right?
Yeah.
And so homebrewing isn't like a D&D specific thing. You homebrew for everything out there, right? And so obviously, yeah, joining other communities, playing other games is going to be important. Do you have any particular communities that you think, like if someone's like, all right, well, I want to go and join one right now, where should I go?
Ours.
Well, I can think of one, yeah. I can think maybe of a couple that are present here.
Right.
Well, Catchy Cantrips and Cloaks and Capes aside, I think
We've got a lot of C's in this group.
They're really C and C and C and C. Yeah, absolutely. The Tabletop RPG Collective is the first one that comes to my mind, just being like the biggest one that I know. There's a lot of crossover there. You had mentioned DM Redcap. Do you have any other communities that you think people would probably find particularly useful?
Yeah, I have to say in general, I'm going to be biased on this answer, and I want to say all of the communities that we know of that are like our players. So our players each have their own communities and each have their own things that they're doing. And I mean, I'm going to be biased and say that each one of them is super amazing. But at the same time, they are all very, very awesome. Not just them, but I feel like just honestly going through Twitch and looking at streamers that you connect with, and you could just go through streamers and watch them for 5-10 minutes, have a little bit of a conversation, see if you can connect and move on. You can find a lot of really good communities. And like I said, they're all going to be very different. And so I think taking the time to figure out which ones you connect with the most is really, really valuable. Because I want to narrow it down to just like a handful. And of course, I want to say all of our players are awesome, which they are. So emphasis to them. Go check them out. We shout them out all the time, all over the place. But not just them. Like, there are so many. I mean, I'm so happy we found you too. Like, you all seem really awesome, and I'm sure you've at this point have met a ton of awesome people and awesome creators and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, how do you answer that question? How do you narrow it down?
You add 5 minutes onto the length of the podcast. Basically.
Just
and you just
five?
bring
Here's my list.
and you bring them on to future episodes, and basically you just have to do an entire episode for each of them. Is kind of what it comes down to.
And at the beginning of every episode, you tell them, you're my favorite guest I've had so far.
Hey,
so.
I will say this is definitely the most chaotic episode that we've had
That's
so far.
Yeah, that's
and that is definitely a plus and a perk. I'll add a few on here if resources. Let's say you're looking for specifically, you're like, well, I want to start making like homebrew stuff for D&D, and I want it to look cool. I want it to look official, like all the stuff that I see. How do you do stuff like that? It's going to take some time to learn unless you have the Space Jam basketball or your Taskmaster. But GM Binder and Homebrewery, if you don't have your own like software to use, are great for creating stuff. The Unearthed Arcana Reddit has all sorts of great resources. That's where I started before I tricked all of my friends into helping me. And then there's tetra-cube.com/D&D.
Oh, yes.
Kind of
I know
a
about
thing.
that one. Yeah, that is a good one.
Yeah, that's a great place for like making the actual like D&D dress for stat blocks that you just basically have to like input in your own thing. Even though we have our own dress for it, I always start with that and then transfer it over to the one that one of our artists made for them. And of course, just like you guys said, that what my last one would be is any community that supports you. We would not have 814 magic items in 12 subclasses right now if it wasn't for the amazing community that we have. This podcast wouldn't exist without them, and the segment that we're about to do after this wouldn't exist without them. So yes, community, 100% community is is definitely paramount.
One thing I want to add, and this isn't to say that I have a ton of great resources, because I just do the writing side of things. Like I couldn't make something look good if I tried. But one thing that I will say is on the writing side of things and on the production side of things, really think about what you would want to play and what you would want to have present in the world. And that can go a long ways towards making something that you're passionate about, because the people who are going to play it are going to be able to sense when you're passionate about like what you've created versus when you weren't, versus when you were just kind of making it because like, this should exist probably. And Robbie, I'll tell you, the one that springs to mind for me immediately is our Warrior of the Street Monk, where I had been saying for years that I wanted something like that, and it just didn't exist in D&D. But I wanted a monk that wasn't the mystic arts, that wasn't, martial arts and kung fu, and that wasn't...
You just wanted to play a bad bitch.
I had just seen Arcane, and I wanted to play Vi. I wanted to be a shit-talking street brawler. And so we finally made the Warrior of the Street Monk, and I'm so excited to actually get to play it because now it exists. And, I mean, like, finding the things that you're passionate about and that you really want to have be in the setting, that can really, really help, like, guide your hand on making these things. What do you think is interesting?
Yeah, I agree with that so much. And I want to kind of throw in on top of all of the things that you both said, to anybody who's considering doing homebrew that has never done it before, that if it wasn't already obvious, you don't have to know every single thing about everything, because we don't know. We don't know what we're doing. And yet for some reason we've made a lot and people seem to like it. So if that helps,
it's all in the showmanship.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna get flamed on YouTube again for saying this. I, for a living, run D&D games and make homebrew things, and I have never read through the player's handbook or the Dungeon Master's Guide. I have referenced them for things when I need it, but did I read them cover to cover? No.
I'm actually not going to get flamed for that because nobody has.
Anybody? Yeah, I was thinking like,
there is somebody who has.
Well, actually, I have read
every page.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's a situation of to each his own. Like, some people have to stick to every rule, have to stick to everything as is. It has to be perfect, and that's totally fine. And I think it's
and they have Pathfinder 2e.
Exactly. But yeah, I think it's kind of like what Kali was saying, is just like, you figure out what you want out of a game and figure out what you enjoy and then go towards that. And it doesn't have to be something that's done so prim and proper. It doesn't have to be something that's done messy like us. It could kind of just be whatever works for you. At the end of the day, we're all different.
What do you mean like us?
Yeah.
We're a mess.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's a perfect way to put it. So normally that would be where we would wrap up a show, but as of a few shows ago, we started doing something a little more fun at the end. Not that this hasn't all been fun already, but a different kind of fun. And we source "Am I the Asshole?" questions from our community, but they have to write them from the perspective of the character. So these aren't like problems that players are having.
The characters.
They are "Am I the Assholes?" from within the game world.
Ooh,
so
this sounds fun. Okay, yes.
Yes, so we're going to have you two help us decide whether or not these two stories here, whether they're the asshole or not.
Yes.
Just right away.
They are.
Probably. Knowing what we know.
They're definitely assholes.
Yeah. So we're going to start with, am I the asshole for not telling my party that the dread demon of lust is living rent-free in my head?
Oh, this must be from my setting then.
I, Flame Tongue, 27 female, was adventuring in some cult ruins with my party when we found a door only I could open. Great start.
Yeah, that's always
Great
a good,
start.
like, no red flags.
Behind it, I found an amulet, and I picked it up. That night, I discovered the dread demon of lust, Amethyst, 400 plus female, had taken up residence in my subconscious. Given that I'd known the party for less than a week, I didn't want to take the risk of telling them and getting killed. The more that I got to know her, the more that I started to realize that there's good in her. But I know at least one member of the party wouldn't be able to see past her being a demon. So I still haven't told them, even after I let her take control of my body for a night to experience mortal life again, and she met several of them as me. Update, she helped us save the world, redeemed herself in doing so, and now we're getting married.
Oh.
So,
is she still in the head when they're getting married? Does that work?
As the DM of that particular game, I'll tell you no. She was separated out eventually.
So, prior to that happening, I definitely feel like it's one thing to be like, okay, so it ended up a happy ending. Doesn't mean you weren't an asshole.
Yeah.
Even if it worked out.
Right. Even though it worked out, the behavior, do we think that Flame Tongue was an asshole?
So I feel like mixed, because on one end, I could see if it's like in the lore, you don't know the people super well yet, and you have this thing in your head, you might not want to tell someone because it's like,
Look,
are they going to like banish me or try to like
there
kill?
could be logical reasons and logical feelings to why you act the way you do. The question is, does that free you from being an asshole just because you logically arrived at a conclusion?
I think the part for me that I think the letting them kind of take control of your body without telling the other party members prior, that one, it feels a little hard to defend, because at that point you potentially are risking other people, because if they don't know, I mean, sure, maybe you're starting to trust this demon in your head, but they...
How much do you know? Here's my thing, right? The whole, I see good in them. They're inside of you. Did you at any point start to question that the reason you're seeing good in them was because they wanted you to?
Because they're
or they
a
were
demon?
affecting you in some way?
Yeah, but did they have a really nice, smooth voice?
They're the dread demon of lust. I assume everything about them was smooth.
Yeah,
I completely understand.
Here's the problem. They were a hot demon woman. That is a fact. They were hot, and they would visit her in her dreams, and those dreams were often very charged, shall we say. So look, I'm not saying I don't get it.
So, but then we have to think, like, is horniness a good excuse?
Is thirst an excuse for being an asshole?
Yeah. It's an excuse, but I don't think it frees you from being an asshole. Normally, I don't go first on these, but here's what I think happened. I think, Flame Tongue, that you are a Tony Stark asshole. All right? I think you have good intentions. I think things tend to work out for you. And because you're hot or your demon is hot, you get away with it, but you still have some asshole tendencies.
Yeah, you listen, you entered into a door that only you could open, and then picked up an amulet, and a demon moved into your head. Like, that's not being an asshole. That's being questionably smart, but that's not being an asshole. But when you let her take over your body and don't warn the party that you're doing that, asshole move.
Yeah, I think for me, it really, as soon as you were telling the story, it's like, I let them take control of my body to meet the players. I was like, hold on. That is a big...
Understandably.
Like, hold on. So they're just gonna demon control you. Party doesn't know. Like, nothing could go wrong here.
I like how Ash is like, but understandably so. Understandably.
Yeah, I get it.
But she was hot.
So basically, I'm saying I would too. It's okay.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Well, I will tell you that what the Dread Demon of Lust did with her body was go visit a brothel and enjoy her night for the first time in a long time.
Spicy.
Well,
all right.
Didn't kill anyone,
All
I
right.
guess.
She didn't.
So,
Number 2. Am I the asshole for accidentally kidnapping an entire pirate crew instead of accidentally kidnapping 2 children? I told a Fae Queen, we'll call her Dove, that she could have anything in a hut where my family has stored honey, while I was also standing in the hut, and now we're engaged to be married. I, 28 female, was on my first date with my betrothed, somewhere north of 2,700-year-old female, and things were going pretty well. I decided to tell her about an idea that I've had about an indirect way to tutor and enrich the minds of those who were underprivileged and therefore unable to afford magical education. She loved the idea, so much so, in fact, that when I asked to use my favor to help find an underprivileged prodigy to mentor, she could hardly contain her joy. A few days later, she teleports into a tavern with 2 children, about 11 years old. According to her, one of these children was the reincarnation of the goddess of heroes, and in a previous lifetime, they made a deal. That's fine, so long as she got permission from their guardians. I couldn't care less. Spoiler alert, she did not. And the kicker, the goddess girl was the child of a pirate captain, so I told her that she needed permission and to send them back. And she did. So you would think problem solved.
yeah.
A few days later, she showed up again to let me know that she took my words to heart and turned back time in order to try again. But before I could stop myself from swooning, she informed me that she asked permission, formed the crew, and they said no. I was reassuring towards her, and I let her know that I was still so proud of her for accepting their answer. But then she broke into a smile and told me that she took the entire crew instead, and now I have to face the fake court and explain the situation to a pissed-off party. Am I the asshole? It's a honey trap.
No.
Yeah,
because it
I
sounds
feel like
more like just a lot of miscommunication and misunderstandings.
It sounds like they really were doing their best to try to accurately communicate to this Fae being the
new
right things to do.
relationships with an age gap, they can be complicated.
This is a 2,672-year age gap. That is going to be complicated. And she's a Fae queen. She's never spent any time in the mortal plane, presumably.
Queen's gonna queen,
Queen's gonna queen. She's not used to being told no, or I'll say this. It does sound like she is trying to follow your rules. She still is gonna get what she wants ultimately, but she's trying to work with you.
Yeah, I don't think Honey Trap is an asshole. Here's what I will point out, right? Because I think that Dove is the asshole. Maybe not inadvertently, but after making the first mistake, they were able to turn back time, okay? Then they kidnapped a whole pirate crew.
They did.
And now you're facing the Fae court and a pissed-off party. Why aren't we turning back time to try again? I think that Dove might like the drama.
You know what? I can see
That's a
that.
good
point. I think you. I mean, look. I will say there is a degree of frustration you're gonna have to get used to when you're marrying a Fae queen. Like, if you're a mortal marrying a Fae queen, you're marrying into the royal court. That there's gonna be a degree of culture shock, shall we call it? There. That said, I think Dove was kind of being an asshole on this one.
I feel like also then Dove. It sounds like probably. I think the question is, did Dove know why they were trying to tell them what to do? And because it sounds like they are each time looking for loopholes of the rule, but then I just wonder how much they were aware that they were going against what they're saying in a way, like a genieing it, kind of.
Yeah,
like,
well, the whole, but then she broke into a smile.
That's what I was thinking.
I think she knew.
Yeah.
I think she knew. I have an unpopular opinion. I know 100% of probably both of our communities is going to disagree with me here, okay? But I'm right. All right? I'm right. I understand why.
Okay.
I understand why these choices are happening, but I can't help but notice that a lot of these problems in these Am I the Asshole stories stem from people getting thirsty and into bed with extraplanar entities. If an entity is not from your plane of existence, maybe think twice about it. Maybe run it by somebody.
No, you know what?
Here's
You know
what
what?
you do.
No, Robbie
Here's what
makes
you do.
a great point.
I want you to go to whoever the paladin or cleric in your party is the next time you want to get into bed with something, and you ask them if it's a good idea first.
I think there's also a scale of like, if they're over 2,000 years older than you, maybe it's not a good match. You know, like
because hold on, because I already know what Katie. I already know what Kali's gonna say. She's like, yeah, you're right. Don't do extraplanar allies. Stick with the vampires that are only 3,000 years old.
I was going to say, I think Robbie makes a great point, and I know Ash is thinking the same thing that I am. We haven't asked it yet. Is this Fae queen hot? Also, I will say,
does it say in the
story,
description if they're hot or not?
I don't think It's a Honey Trap was actually pursuing Dove. It sounds like this marriage might have been like I promised you could have everything in the hut, and I was in the hut, and so I accidentally promised myself to you. That's why they're getting married.
Or was it an accident, or were they just, they were trying to find a way to get married to him, and it's like, oh, oops, I'm in the hut.
Oh
no!
I was gonna say I know the player, and I'm pretty sure it's that one.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's that one.
Yeah,
because what does a Fae queen have? What does she need honey for? Come on, you knew what you were doing. You knew, and you know what? No, hold on. You knew what you were doing. I'm changing my answer. You are the asshole, honey pot.
It sounds like they were trying to get honey.
Yeah, you know what?
Exactly what was happening.
I'm gonna say not the asshole on this one, but I think your partner might be the asshole.
All right. Well, Ash, David from Catchy Cantrips, thank you so much. This is the point of the show now where we would like you to go ahead and take the reins and tell people where they can find you. Tell people what you're up to. Any projects you happen to be involved in. The floor is yours.
Oh gosh, I have to admit, you had said earlier we were the most chaotic so far, and my immediate thought was, David, grab the Nerf guns. Let's just start having a Nerf fight and roll off stage and be like, find us a Catchy Cantrips. And I was like, wait, that might be too far. Maybe tone it down.
I'd have gone with
That's
it.
ridiculous.
Oh,
What are you
well.
doing?
Oh god. What have
I was
done?
going to say, David's being pretty bold for the last time that I saw it happen on stream, where he was like, no, don't shoot me. Please don't nerf me.
Wow,
Now
called
it's
out.
for revenge. That's what it is.
But yeah, you can find us everywhere at Catchy Cantrips. We're on pretty much all of the platforms. I don't even know what platforms are what now because everything's shifting around as far as social medias. But Twitch, Discord, all of the things. Our little TVs cycling through. But yeah, you can find us kind of everywhere. We're silly goobers. If you're cool with just kind of messy, chaotic energy.
If you've made it this far, then
exactly. You're probably
we'll have all of those links in the show description as well, so you don't have to go on a scavenger hunt to find those. They're all going to be right down there for you to click on super easily.
Put it down. Put it down.
Wait,
That's a face standoff. As for us, everybody, this isn't your first time listening. You know who we are. You know what we're about. But you can find all of our stuff over on Patreon. 800 plus items. We should have, by the time this comes out, all 12 of our subclasses now, including the Burning Heart Barbarian and the Cosmic Wizard. So go and check all of that stuff out. And as always, I'm Robbie Landis. Keep watching, keep listening, keep downloading, keep playing, keep rolling. Go ahead, fire, shoot.
The Cloaks and Capes podcast is created by the support of its listeners and generous Patreon donors. Special thanks to our mythmakers and legends, Heartslot, Dolvik, Celtic Crow, Darkflux, Gamergal, Strix River, Tater Thoughts, and Capelli. Views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of its hosts. Editing and production by Aaron Pillen and music provided by Aidan Hageland. If you want to support the Cloaks and Capes podcast, check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/Cloaks and Capes. And check us out on Threads and Instagram at Cloaks and Capes TTRPG.
Yeah. And then under a blanket, there's a huge one that she's just like, put it down. So
It's like the call an ambulance.
But not for me. It was that a lot of the times.